Hello and welcome back. In this lesson, we will look at a critical aspect of American society, systemic inequalities in U.S. citizenship. Shining a light on these disparities is crucial for our understanding of the privileges connected to citizenship status in the United States. We will use historical and contemporary examples to explore this complex topic. Keep in mind that the information shared here might stir strong emotions, especially when confronted with historical imagery. It's natural to feel overwhelmed by some visuals, given their reflection of what was considered appropriate at different points in our history. Feel free to pause if needed and return to this video at any time. It's perfectly okay. In order to understand systemic inequalities in U.S. citizenship, we must first grasp the historical context. Throughout American history, marginalized communities have faced discrimination and barriers in their pursuit of equal citizenship. From the nation's inception, citizenship was only deemed necessary for the select few, namely white, property-owning males. It has only been over time and through great struggle that the qualifications for citizenship have broadened and expanded. Slavery, the Jim Crow era, the Chinese Exclusion Act, and the displacement of Native Americans are stark examples of how specific racial and ethnic groups were systematically denied full citizenship rights. During slavery, enslaved African Americans were denied legal status, as exemplified by the 1856 Dred Scott decision, which categorized them as property. Legal recognition came at the end of the Civil War with the 13th Amendment, officially abolishing slavery. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship rights and equal protection to all, and the 15th Amendment secured voting rights for African American men. These amendments remain fundamental to civil rights today. Fear of losing white privilege and political power in the South fueled resistance to federal Reconstruction and the rise of racist vigilante groups like the Ku Klux Klan. With the end of Reconstruction in 1877 and departure of federal troops, African Americans in the South experienced a rise in voter restrictions, political intimidation, and violence. These, along with legal segregation, characterized the Jim Crow era in the late 19th century until the mid-20th century. It would not be until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that discriminatory voting practices like literacy tests were federally outlawed. The 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act marked the first ever legal restriction on immigration and citizenship based on ethnicity. It denied citizenship to those of Chinese descent born in the U.S. and mandated that they carry legal documents. This exposed them to harassment, violence, and extortion. The act was finally repealed in 1943, when the U.S. needed China's alliance in World War II. Native Americans, the original inhabitants of what would become the United States, didn't gain federal recognition as U.S. citizens until 1924 through the Indian Citizenship Act. It took decades to secure voting rights in all states. Building trust in the U.S. government was an uphill battle, given centuries of forced migration, militarized eradication campaigns, and traumatic assimilation efforts that targeted Native American children. Unfortunately, systemic inequalities persist in modern America. Let's examine some contemporary examples that highlight these disparities. First, the mass incarceration rates disproportionately affect Black and Brown communities, leading to a cycle of disenfranchisement. In many states, incarceration denies any future ability to vote and limits employment. It can also reduce opportunities to avoid recidivism. Recidivism is the tendency of an individual to relapse into criminal behavior, which can result in reincarceration. Next, immigration policies, like family separations, have targeted Latinx and immigrant communities, undermining their sense of belonging and rights. Additionally, voter suppression disproportionately affects minority communities, hindering their ability to participate fully in the democratic process. At present, 35 states require ID when voting. These laws seek to disenfranchise low socioeconomic and minority communities. The effect of these intentions are to prevent citizens from exercising their guaranteed rights. Understanding systemic inequalities in U.S. citizenship requires recognizing intersectionality. As we have discussed in previous lessons, this is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, gender, and ethnicity. Marginalized communities often face compounded discrimination due to intersecting factors, making it vital to consider the multiple layers of oppression they endure. Despite these systemic challenges, marginalized communities have shown resilience and determination in advocating for change. The civil rights movement, immigrant rights protests, and indigenous land rights activism are prime examples of how collective action and advocacy can push for progress and challenge systemic inequalities. Rest assured, we will explore examples of resistance in upcoming lessons. As we conclude our exploration of systemic inequalities in U.S. citizenship, it's crucial to remember that understanding this issue is the first step toward creating a more just and equal society. We will revisit this topic in a future lesson with a focus on how late 20th and early 21st century activists have worked to expand access to citizenship rights for all Americans. Through education, advocacy, and collective action, we can work towards dismantling systemic inequalities and fostering a more inclusive and equitable future for all. Thank you for watching.